Welcome to Business Mentorship, Keepin' It Real, where we feature entrepreneurs and enterprise leaders who participate in our guest blog on shareyourstories.online. Our guest is Rhonda Page, who is an author, a speaker, a coach, and a business consultant with a focus on brand strategy. And she's going to share with us a few tips on how we can manage our digital profiles. And Rhonda joins us today from Florida. Welcome.
Thank you.
Listen, there was no way that I could get away with not saying that you're in Florida, because it's very clear that you're in the sunny South, somewhere nice and warm. So we're glad that we're glad that you've taken some time to join us.
If you hear noise, because I'm outside.
Now, I know that I've been reading a lot of articles that are talking about a change or a shift in marketing strategy, where it seems that digital assets have now gone to the top of the list. Would you agree?
Well, it's kind of interesting. It's interesting times in every way, because yes, there's a lot of digital, but there's a lot of noise too.
Yes.
Like there's more and more people doing digital.
Yes.
And I'm finding that, you almost have to do more things. Like you have to have kind of a more rounded plan or strategy than just emailing or just posting. Like it kind of has to be a combination of things to cut through the clutter. But I think some of it, there's still something to be said for a good old fashioned phone call, right, or outreach to people, like connecting one-on-one.
Well, I seem to be hearing from a lot of folks that, there's so many social platforms now, and there's so much pressure to have a presence on the various different platforms. Would you recommend that someone has a consistent message on all of the platforms, whichever ones they may be on? Or would you recommend that they tailor them to the demographic of that platform? Because they're all very different.
Well, it's really hard to manage so many platforms. It's really hard to be on Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram. It's a huge job. And, what I'm seeing is people are doing the same thing on every platform just to keep posting. But really, I mean, you want to kind of simplify it and be where your audience is.
Right.
And if you're business to business, your audience is more likely on LinkedIn than anything else. I think frequency is a big deal. The more, if you're there regularly,
right,
that's a good thing. And, of course, authenticity and keeping it real, like you say, is really, especially now, because there's
Are you finding, Rhonda, that there's folks who are really changing their brand strategy? Because, I certainly think that a website is now more important than the business card used to be, because we're not out there doing the face-to-face networking where we're handing out cards to people. So if we're doing these online platforms, and there's lots of sort of social networks where you can meet people, I find that even sometimes when I'm discussing or meeting someone for the first time, I can tell that they're jumping onto my website to sort of see, what your profile looks like. So I'm making an assumption that, the sort of that homepage that we have in terms of our website is probably become more important than the business card, or as important as the business card may have been in the past.
Well, I think everybody goes and checks, wants to know the website for anything, any service, any product, what's their website.
Right.
So, yeah, the website definitely is really important. It makes a big impression. And really, there's not a lot that stand out there.
Yeah, how do you cut through the noise? I mean, that's you mentioned that, and that's a really good point, because everybody's looking for that thing that's going to set them apart from their competition. So and it doesn't matter what industry you're in or what product or service you're offering. There's no doubt that there's a lot of competition, and I think now our stage is more global than it ever has been.
For sure.
Right?
For sure. Really, I always say focus on the audience first. Right. Who are you talking to?
Right.
And make sure you have a message that's going to really get their attention.
Right.
Now, because if you start looking at your competition, you'll find that almost everybody's saying the same thing,
Same
and
thing,
everybody
yeah.
looks the same, and
Yeah.
it's hard, you really have to, I keep saying, be different, do it different, but also be different, not just say I'm different or
Right.
have a different message, but how can you be different?
Now, one of the things that you noticed, and you shared this in the guest blog, is that you were actually in Ireland in a speaking engagement when you had your own sort of light bulb or aha moment. So take us through sort of what happened in that scenario and how you sort of made a paradigm shift in your own business.
Well, I'm talking about being different. I've been doing differentiation for years, working on big brands, you know, figuring out how they're different. But I realized at a certain point, like some of them really weren't different, like cheese. It's like it really is all the. I mean, of course there's different cheeses and different levels of cheese, but when you're looking at kind of packaged consumer packaged goods type stuff,
Right.
it's not that different. And it got me thinking about how a lot of things, a lot of people are saying they're different, but they're not really different. So then
Right.
I started, I get into I get into business models and service design and all kinds of stuff like that. So I started thinking, differentiation doesn't just have to be about like having a product that's different. It could be about how you deliver your service. Like it could be about a unique business model, or like it could be about so many different things.
Right.
It doesn't just have to be about like, here, our product is different. And now I think, especially like now after the pandemic or since the pandemic, people are just so fed up with being bullshitted to. Like,
Right.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on camera, but people are so tired of the,
Right. They're looking for authenticity, right?
inauthentic, all the
Right.
marketing and all the noise,
Right.
and everybody's saying the same thing. And who can you trust? Like, it's become like really, especially the younger generations who are the big consumers, they don't want to be like told stories.
Right. Or if the stories that you're sharing, they have to be sort of from the heart, because I think we can tell when something is authentic and when it's not. And so that really makes a difference. Now, in a lot of the social platforms, though, that folks have been concentrating on in the last little while, you have very little time to capture somebody's attention because, they're flipping through the Instagram feed, or, they're taking a look at Facebook, or even on LinkedIn. Everyone's got a feed and we're kind of scrolling through all of the various different posts. So is there a strategy that you can share with folks that would kind of make someone pause or stop at your particular post so that then you have the chance to convey your message?
Well, I think especially on LinkedIn, there's an opportunity to stand out visually. I mean, there's lots of opportunity on LinkedIn because most of it's pretty poor. I find like it's really just looks a lot of same old, like you just
Right.
see this
Right.
endless, same old stuff. So I think visually, like I think if you can create a strong visual impact, there's more of a chance to stand out on social media. Um, with fonts and colors, but also again having something interesting to say,
To
not just
say, right.
posting to keep posting, but really coming up and focusing on the audience again.
So should we be focusing on the solution? Because we all have a solution that we're providing, right? So whether, there is a problem and that we're in business to provide a solution to that particular problem. So is there a way in which folks can kind of hone in on conveying the solution to the problem that is in such a way that it's easy for people to understand? Because I find that one of the things with cutting through the noise is that, and you're right, there's a sameness to the look of the posts, right? They all kind of look the same. So if you're trying to be different, what is some of the advice that you can give to folks who maybe have a unique packaging of a particular product, or they're offering a different kind of service than the rest of the folks in their particular area of expertise. Is there something that you, some sort of tip that you can give them to help them differentiate themselves?
Like on social media,
Yeah.
I found that when I post I only post. I mean, I'm probably not the perfect example, but I only post when I really feel excited about something. Like I
Okay.
see something and I'm like, oh my God, people need to know this. This is so interesting. And, um, and then I write something about it and I get a lot of,
Feedback on that.
yeah, like I posted something probably 6 months ago on LinkedIn. Like I saw an article, I forget where it was. It might have been in Fast Company or something, about how the fashion industry are the biggest polluters, and that's like such a huge issue right now. And it talked all about, how fashion has become throwaway and the quality of what used to be there. And I got so fired up about this. I was like, yes, oh my God, this is so important. And I posted it. I wrote a whole thing, why I think this is so important. And then I asked a question at the end of people, like, do you remember when you used to have those pieces that were old and they were great and the quality was amazing? And I had so many comments, like people, oh my God, I used to have this sweater that I bought in Italy. And, you know, it was such an interesting, so it was something that people really, it was personal. And people started talking about these items of clothing. I was talking about how I bought this cashmere coat in Italy. I still have it. It's like 30 years old and it's like still amazing. And so people really got into that discussion. And I think it's, if you're posting things that you're really interested in and passionate about, that others are interested in, I think that really makes a big difference. I think a lot of people are just posting because it's like, okay, I got to post every day.
Right.
And, and making a plan, making a strategy, like a content strategy, like
Around that. Yeah.
around that.
Well, that's a really good point. And I really like the fact that you said, it's the emotional response that you got from that created the engagement with that post. So your passion for the topic came through in what you wrote, and then you were able to engage your audience because it was also something that they were interested in. So that's a really good point. And I think that's what helps you be different, is that, you're taking something that you've got a personal approach to, and then you're translating that into a discussion really with the folks that are in your social feed. So I think that's really great advice. Thank you for sharing that. Now, one of the things that we do in the guest blog is we ask folks to share words of advice. And your words of advice very much go with your core values, and that is be different. So what would you recommend to folks, and why is that important for them, especially in today's day and age?
Well, I think there's a lot of copycat stuff going on, that just because this system, everybody's selling a system that works. And it may not work. It may have worked for them. It may not work for
Work for
you.
you, yeah.
But so it's like really, people are buying all these programs and this is the one that's going to work. But maybe just take a step back and really look at what's going to work, what's true for you and what's going to work for you and what you're going to be excited about doing. Because if you absolutely hate posting on social media, it's not going to help your business.
Right.
Like you've got to do the things that are fun for you.
Right. That's a really good point. And I think that's a really wonderful thought to leave people with is, share something that creates an emotional connection, and share something that you're passionate about, because that really will separate you from the rest of your competition. So thank you very much for sharing that, Rhonda. That's been very helpful.
Welcome. You're welcome.
And to you, our viewing and listening audience, I'd like to thank you for joining us for this edition of Keeping It Real, where we introduced you to the person behind the logo. I'm Trish Tonai, founder and host for the series. And if you'd like to be featured in our website, visit shareyourstories.online. And thanks again for joining us. And we look forward to meeting you next time when we introduce another great idea.